Yo, welcome back to the checkup where we talk hoops and hoops only. And we're going to be talking about one of the most poverty franchises in sports. And that franchise being the Cleveland Cavaliers. So in their history, they've basically only had two good periods. And that was back in the late 80s to early 90s. And then there was the two LeBron James eras from 2003 to 2010. And then from 2014 to 2018. But besides that, the Cavs have been unable to be a competent franchise. They've got one ring in their history from 2016, but ever since 2018, the Cavs have returned to being a laughingstock in the NBA and just flat out trash. During this time though, the Cavs, obviously getting trash picks, or good picks, because of how trash they've been, they have used those picks wisely. They drafted Colin Sexton in 2018 with the 8th pick in the draft, or 9th pick I think, in the draft, who's shown he's a natural scorer after putting up close to 25 points per game last season, and he's only 23 years old. And then also, in 2019, the year after, they drafted his backcourt partner, Darius Garland, who's super underrated, and is coming off a 17 point per game season and is running the show in Cleveland. So they've got their two backcourt guys, and they've been building ever since 2018 with the draft. And you look at this team, they're not that bad for a young core. They got Evan Mobley, who they drafted this past season or this past draft with the 3rd overall pick. He has a lot of potential. Some people think he can be the best player in the class. I think it's Jalen Green or Cade, but Evan Mobley, definitely not a bad prospect. And then they also traded for Jared Allen in the James Harden deal, and they re-signed him to a big contract this offseason. So they got their core guys on the team. But then you also look, they're a really underrated team in the lesser Eastern Conference. We look at all these other teams in the past that were young and they went through ups and downs and they found it and they got it together and they ended up being a solid team. I think the Cavs can potentially do that. You look at the roster, they can push the floor. They're going to be a fast-paced team. They can shoot at a solid rate with this type of team. And then you also look, we got certain guys that we'd even mention that are good young players, like Isaac Okoro, who was drafted in 2020, who has the potential to be a good two-way player in this league. And Lauri Markkanen, who's getting a fresh new start in Cleveland, and he just signed a 3-year deal. He's only 24 years old. So when you look at this roster top to bottom, I think the only concerns is that it's a small backcourt and also not a lot of vets. Ricky Rubio and Kevin Love being the only two vets is not the greatest thing. They need a little more, to hold it down for when bad times happen. But you look, the Cavs front office, if they play it right, this team can definitely be good in the next 2 to 4 years. But they just need to make the right moves, sign guys to the right contracts, the right amount of money, and also try their hardest to convince guys to come play in Cleveland. It's hard as hell to do it. Only reason people were doing it a few years ago is because of LeBron James. But if they can do it, they'll be a pretty solid team. I mean, like I said, we see teams like the Atlanta Hawks who built through the draft and are now a playoff contender in the conference, or the Philadelphia 76ers, who are a better example, even though it's all crumbling now. But, their infamous process from 2013 to 2017, they built through the draft. And I feel like Cleveland can definitely potentially do a similar style if they keep this pace, especially with the nice young talent they just got from the draft alone, not counting the free agents that they just signed or can sign in the near future. So if the Cleveland Cavaliers play their cards right, we're really sleeping on this team as an underrated young core. When we mention young cores, we talk about the Hawks, we talk about the Pelicans, or we used to talk about the Pelicans. We talk about all these other teams, and we never bring up the Cavs, and I think people need to start bringing up this team because they got some real good players, 5 or 6 solid good young players. All they need to do is fill out vets, fill out the bench, and the Cavaliers will be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference real soon. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, link in the description. This has been the Checkup where we talk hoops and hoops only. And I'll see you on the next one next week. Peace.